Dr. Deborah Rubin is the co-director of Cultural Practice LLC, a woman-owned consulting firm based in Bethesda, Maryland, right up the way from me in Virginia. Dr. Rubin provides technical leadership for cultural practices work on gender equality, agriculture, and food security. She leads the cultural practice team and working on the intersections of gender and agriculture. She was part of the organizing committee for the first conference in 2019, where she was also a presenter and is on the current committee as well. So we appreciate her and all her work and support. Always seeking to translate research into practical options for social change, she has authored or co-authored publications to help practitioners address gender issues in agricultural value chains, agricultural technologies, and the use, control over, and ownership of assets using qualitative research methods. Formerly a university professor and a professional editor for the World Bank and others, Dr. Rubin understands the nuance of crafting written and oral communications to deliver technical content clearly to technical specialists and non-technical stakeholders alike. She earned her PhD in cultural anthropology from Johns Hopkins University. So we are privileged to have her. And Dr. Rubin, over to you.
Well, thanks so much, Erin, for that very lovely introduction. It's always hard to recognize yourself when other people describe you, but I hope that I can live up to your comments. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you here today. I'm especially happy to see some folks that I know and have worked with, including my former colleague, Christina Manfrey, who was just running a panel a few minutes ago. And I wanted to say that we have planned this session to try and give you an opportunity now to reflect on the things that you've been hearing over the last couple of days, and to give everyone a chance to think about and to share your thoughts on what are currently the big questions that are facing women and gender and development in agriculture and food systems. We've heard a number of examples in some of the presentations that focus on what's happening at the local level. And we've also heard from Jemima and Juki, who reminded us that things have really changed over the last 20 years in terms of increasing attention to gender, as well as other topics like masculinities and engaging men and any variety of those intersectional issues that face agricultural programming and development. So our charge is to identify what still needs to be done. We've provided 5 background questions, which I don't see on the screen, but your facilitators have in the session. And each group will be able to depend on the facilitator to help with taking notes of the conversation. And they will also identify a timekeeper. I would like to give a shout out to our 5 facilitators. That's Hannah, Lacey, Adia, Nikki, and Christy. And they will be there to guide you through this process. So is it possible for us to get that list of the 6 questions up on the, sorry, it's 5 questions, not 6 questions. No.
Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do to just go ahead and do that. It'll be an interesting share screen, folks. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. If we can get that up, if not, I'm happy to help the groups to get them. Okay, they're being posted in the chat, I see. So that's helpful. So you'll have about 30 minutes for discussion. There are 6 questions. We suggest that you choose 3 and talk for about 10 minutes on each one, but that's just a suggestion, not a requirement. And notes will be taken. And then after the 30 minutes, we'll come back together in plenary and go through some reflection together about what you all have come up with. Maybe there'll be some new PhD or master's dissertation topics in our discussion today. So thanks so much for all of that. I think we're ready to go into the breakout groups, and I will be visiting each of them as we go forward.
Deborah, I can initiate those rooms for you if you just give me 1 moment.
Folks, from a process standpoint, as you depart, note that you will get the link technically to these Google Docs in your breakout rooms. So your facilitator for your breakout will be there eventually, greet you, say hello, and make sure that you guys are all on a Google Doc and can collaborate together for your conversation. So if that was missed, there you go.
Thank you, Erin, for
Okay, we will
reminding us
open.
how that will work.
No problem, no problem. We will work on that tomorrow for our facilitators in training.
Okay, I am opening the rooms now.
Beautiful. Good to see all of you back, and I hope you enjoyed your breakout experience. I'm going to turn the floor over to Dee.
Well, thank you. I was having a great time eavesdropping and sometimes participating in the discussions in most of the groups. I didn't get to group 5. I'm sorry about that. And it was really nice to hear what people had to say about the different questions. I think almost all the questions were addressed. So in these last few minutes, I wonder if we could turn from the specific questions that you had and think more, even more broadly. And if people would like to make a couple of comments about what the most surprising thing was that they heard in the sessions this morning, either our breakout groups or from the panels and the keynote. Do I have a volunteer there? What really surprised you? Okay, nobody wants to speak in front of the whole group. Well, what surprised me was to hear from Jemima about how much things had changed in the world of gender and development, and some of the topics that people raised in the questions that she was explaining we still needed to work on. So in the discussion on myths that a couple of groups were talking about, one of the things that came out was that it's not only the myths among men and women themselves about what they can do, it's also about the myths that people who are in institutions deal with. So those can be the academic institutions, it can be the practitioner institutions, it can be our government institutions that still maintain myths about women's participation or women's benefits. There's a note in the chat that all our facilitators have the opportunity now also to report on what was said in the different groups. So is there a group that is willing to speak? I know that group 1 had a really great group. So could the facilitator from group 1 perhaps say something? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm sorry, I have my video off because my internet's not too stable, but we chose, I guess I'll continue with what was found most surprising and insightful as a starting point. And some things we had talked about were looking forward, what are some of the better ways to engage men as allies and to create space for broader social norm change? And something else was, and starting with the question, why aren't men coming to workshops instead of thinking about ways to engage men in the workshop by considering what they already do?
That's a great point. How about from group 5? Because I interrupted group 5 at the end. Can we hear from them? We still have about 2 minutes.
Group 5, we also had some discussion of surprising and insightful moments in the conference. Something important that was brought up was how heavy of a focus there has been in our panels and discussions on gender transformative approaches, which reflects that in development practice and research in general, it's becoming more embraced and becoming more mainstream as a practice to, as was discussed in the keynote this morning, combine qualitative and quantitative methods to inform our research and inform our discussions of policymaking. So that was both a surprising and insightful dimension in relation to methods that we discussed in group 5.
That's a great point. I also think that there's still a gap for those of you looking for topics about how to do that in a way that's more integrative and not just having a survey and having some focus groups side by side. So how can we come up with an analysis, an intersectional analysis that's more holistic? Group 3, going to the middle, one comment.
Yes, we had a great discussion in group 3. We talked about what is one thing we should stop doing. And there were several comments, discussions around engaging men, not necessarily where we want them to be, but where they are, where they can be found. And we also talked about myths, and there was one that I liked, particularly the myth that, doing gender is easy, just a formula of add women and stir equals a gender sensitive program. I thought that was very interesting.
Great. Yes, I once wrote a paper called Adding Women and What Has Adding Women Stirred Up? Which is very much about why it doesn't just happen automatically. Okay, I think we're at the point where we need to really wrap up. Erin, do you have a comment that you would like to make?
Sure, I can chime in, and I'm going to invite the group as I do that. Bear with me to just reflect for a moment, kind of on the day. What one thing really stood out to you? That one thing, if you would think that through. I am about to maybe, we will see, open up a slide deck for you. Give me just a moment. It looks like I'm not going to be able to do that.
Erin, if I could just jump in with a couple comments from group 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't jump in earlier. We had a lot of good conversation about coursework, seeing the same authors over and over again and getting the same critiques of looking for more diverse viewpoints, and also really needing to develop the homegrown expertise where your experts aren't just coming from the US and they are in the countries that you're working with. So I thought those were some really great points. And even at the end, kind of left with some questions, for future discussion, like, are we perhaps at some point looking at certain things too academically, like with gender as a social construct, and could it in certain cases be at the cost of the communities that we're working with?
Thank you for that. And I'm curious, before we just make an assumption here, we've got a couple minutes. Yeah, we'll let you out on time. Is there something else that the groups were thinking about? And it can be question 1, question 10, anything. This is your time. Is there something else that's coming up for you guys and gals in the room and space in the room in this virtual audience? What else?
Sure, can I add something from group 2? So in group 2, we were in agreement about including using a more participatory approach method in our work as a method that you can use. Then something else was about just professors in universities, people in academia, just using practical examples in the various disciplines that they teach, using very practical examples in terms of gender, how gender relates in their various disciplines. So our group thought that that would be one of the ways that they could better equip students in their classes to work and to see gender in a different way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that.
If I can add, in one of the groups, they also mentioned the importance of using, I believe it was group 2, they also mentioned the importance of using very practical examples to be able to communicate about what's happening in the field. So not just focusing on the theory.
Yeah, I think what is so often comes up for me is when I'm hearing all of you guys talking is how do we really make this practical? How do we have an open, natural conversation? Anyone else that's is percolating before we do a checkout? I'm gonna shift This is what happens in dynamic moments. I'm going to shift. I'm going to review this quick slide, and then I'd love to do a brief checkout just to close us well, if that's all right with the gang. And I would appreciate a reaction just to get a thumbs up from all, especially volunteers, because I know you guys are talking to me about slides and all kinds of things. Can I get a reaction of a thumbs up if we're good there? I have a hand. That's concerning. Thank you for a couple thumbs up. That's really helpful just to make sure we're good. Okay, team. So again, agenda for tomorrow, for Friday. This is what's behind me. Just as a heads up, we will have a keynote. Carolyn Sachs, so excited about that. And I can't wait for her. We will shift then to some panels, similar format, do some awards. That should be a real gift from Daniel. And then we will move on to the big picture with Deb. And I did it again. D. Rubin, and one day I'm going to get it right. I apologize for that. D, thank you for your time today. And we're really excited about the big picture conversation tomorrow. And also, for those that have been with us for the last 2 days prior to today, you know this well. I've been asking you to book some time. Spend some time with us. We have, I believe, 3 conversations. I want to say it's careers, diversity, and inclusion, and if memory serves me, an open space for networking from 1 to 2 o'clock Eastern. So I invite you to do that. So now I'm going to kick the slides, and I'm hopefully going to be pushing to all of you gallery view, but I encourage you to jump on gallery view. What I'm going to ask of you, and I'm just going to, for sake of, I'm going to run down the participants list. I'd love to do a 1-word checkout, and those that know this know it well, but I'm going to run down the participant list. I'm going to call out a name for those I can see, and I'd love to know what 1 word you might have to describe your insight for today. 1 word. And D, if you would kick us off, I will check in with you, and then I'm just going to move down that participants list. So be ready, be off mute. Everyone be off mute. Be ready to share your 1 word. D, would you kick us off?
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating. Thank you. Brianna.
Enlightening.
Lightning. Nikki.
Collaborative.
Thank you. Lacey.
Thought-provoking.
Hannah.
Motivated.
Christy.
New.
I believe we have Nicole. Stick with us. We're losing people. Nicole.
Inspiring.
Inspiring. Really fast, guys. Alyssa. Oh no. Alyssa, we can't hear you if you're on mute. You'll want to come off mute, everyone.
Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. I was getting a message saying the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. So I had to get invited to unmute. But
Very good.
engage.
Engage. Thank you, Natalie.
Hopeful.
Thank you, Anita.
Am I still muted?
There she is.
Interactive.
Interactive. We're gonna get there, right? Valerie.
Engaging.
Thank you, Mike. The captioner.
Exciting.
Exciting. Charles.
Collaboration, but
Collaboration.
hopefully mobilization.
Appreciate seeing your face today. Thank you for that. Judith.
Interesting.
Interesting. Caroline.
I think we have a number of Carolines.
I think in fact, you were the right one, Miss. If it was Derry or Derry, I'm not sure, but Caroline with a D.
All right, exciting.
Exciting, thank you. And we've got lots of people moving. So to wrap us up, if you have not yet shared your voice, would you migrate to chat? And as you depart, will you just share your 1 word as you check out? We appreciate you. I'll read those words as we leave. Feel free to please just share your 1 word so that we can grab your voice as you depart. And if not, no worries. We will see you tomorrow in plenary. Thought-provoking. Thank you, Abby. Take care. Engage. Megan, thank you. Appreciate you. Connected. Another insightful from Caroline again. I love that. Thank you all so, so much. Oh, a plug from Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. Just as a reminder about the grad student meetup, 3:30 p.m. I believe that's probably Eastern, to make that happen. Elizabeth, reflective, lovely. What else as you depart? Thank you guys and gals and all.